Faster than a speeding bullet.
I ran until my muscles burned and my veins pumped battery acid.
More powerful than a locomotive.
An idea is like a virus. Resilient. Highly contagious.
Able to leap tall buildings in a single bound.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jared Moon here. Welcome to the Better Humanology podcast. This week we have Adam Schaeuble. He refers to himself as the PhD, the previously heavy dude, and he should, because he reached a point in his life where he weighed 327 pounds and he lost over 100 pounds in his pursuit. He actually has a really awesome journey. It's not just about losing 100 pounds, a great journey as an entrepreneur and how he really turned his life around. We kind of kick off the episode with some really interesting conversation about vibration, frequency, the law of attraction, a lot of this mindset stuff that we've mentioned throughout the Better Humanology podcast. Other guests have hit on here and there. We talk about that. We talk about what it actually takes to lose that 100 pounds and really go after a goal and stick with it. We dive into a lot of different things, and I think that you will really get a lot out of this for multiple reasons. I had fun with this conversation because Adam and I have so many similarities in our mindset, our approach to entrepreneurship, to fitness, to family life. So it was a great conversation. I'll probably have him back on to finish some of the spots I feel like I didn't get to go as deep as I would have liked to. Either way, guys, this is a great one. Listen to Adam, pull everything that you can out of it. So let's dive in to this episode. All right, Adam, welcome to the Better Humanology podcast, man. Super pumped to have you here today.
Jared, I'm psyched, man. We got connected a few months ago, and I knew that we were brothers from another mother, and we were going to have that synergy, and I'm excited to bring some mojo to your show here, brother.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun being on your podcast, to be honest. One of the most enjoyable podcast interviews I've done. So, man, you got it going on. Hopefully I can bring it as the host this time and return the favor.
You got it.
All right,
you got it, man.
We're going to get kicked off with some challenges. Everyone knows that we like to do some challenges, some recommendations, things like that. So I'm going to get you started off for everybody with a fitness challenge, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I'm a gym owner as well as, an online guy, but I really like running my clients through a very simple 30 burpee for time challenge. That's nice. Just a nice assessment. I deal with a lot of people that are just kind of getting started on their weight loss journey and very new to working out. And I feel like if we can get them, our first goal is just to get it under 5 minutes. Let's be able to get 30 burpees in under 5 minutes. Some of my more in shape people are down there around 1 minute. So, good form is always important, but I feel like that's a nice whole body conditioning plus a little bit of strength. And that's a nice baseline test I like to throw out there.
Yeah, it's a simple, not easy one. Like it doesn't sound bad. But I think any number over like 5 burpees starts to get uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's when cardio starts to happen, and everybody's like, "Wait a second, this is gonna suck."
Yeah, I had an idea once. I was gonna like throw in something like that during my workday, like 30 burpees every couple of hours, just to keep me going. And then I realized that 30 burpees is a little much. Like you're breaking into a sweat at that point.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do that in the middle of your workday a couple times, that's awesome, dude.
Yep.
Love the challenge. So how about a mental toughness challenge?
I did a challenge with my nutrition. I did 1,000 days in a row with no cheats on my diet.
Wow.
So I just started off doing a year. I'm like, I'm going to do a year because, again, I deal with a lot of people that struggle with weight loss, weight gain, kind of that cycle back and forth. So I wanted to do something to lead by example and inspire them. So I'm like, if I can go a year, you can go a week or a day. And so I started it with a year, and then I was like, well, I might as well just go another year. And I ended up going 1,000 days, and we rounded it off, and I had some homemade ice cream at the end of that. But that was very, there was a lot of mental toughness, but it challenged me to think differently about social gatherings, holidays, and I was able to turn my focus to interaction and connecting with like my family on the holidays, or focusing on my son on his birthday instead of let's see how much cake I can eat. So it was pretty cool. But I challenge anybody just to go, if you struggle with a day, go a week. If you struggle with going 2 weeks clean eating, then go a month. Push like 50% past your comfort zone and see how long you can go without a cheat. Now you have to clearly define the rules of your nutrition as well. Like you can't be like, oh, I'm paleo, and then whoops, I'm keto on Wednesday, and then I'm Weight Watchers on Friday. You can't program hop. So you have to commit first, put a ring on it, get committed, and then just see how long you can take that streak.
Dude, that is incredible. That's like my true definition of mental toughness is doing something every day.
Yep.
You know, that's over 3 years, man. That's incredible. That's absolutely incredible. And amazing challenge to throw down. That's awesome.
Yep.
All right, how about a book recommendation? Now, this can be anything from something you read recently to maybe something that's impacted your life.
Okay. I've got 3. I'm breaking the rules already, Jared. I've got 3 for 3 specific types of people. All right. If you are just a fitness enthusiast, a book that I'm really jamming on right now is Sleep Smarter by Sean Stevenson. I feel like that is an area that we can all improve upon, is our quality of sleep and the benefits that we can get out of that. One for entrepreneurs. If you are a business owner, a book that has really changed the game for me is called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I've interviewed him. I met him in person a couple of weeks ago. It was a game changer for taking the pressure off of trying to figure everything out with the numbers of running a business. So Profit First, excellent game changer. And then for somebody that just wants to get stuff done, I love the book called The One Thing by Gary Keller, how to prioritize and focus on the most important thing. That way you can make the most impact.
Phenomenal books, man. And to hit on the entrepreneur one, so I just read Profit First, I think in maybe January, February time frame, immediately implemented, man. It's been a huge game changer. For anyone out there running a business, it is confusing to know a lot of the little things, like how to pay yourself, how much is an appropriate amount to pay yourself, and how should you structure your business. And man, that one for sure, it absolutely transformed my business and how we do things, and it's really been incredible.
Well, it takes the pressure off a lot of the questions that we ask ourselves, like, how much do I need for taxes? How much, you know, I would just go months without paying myself just because I'd freak out about not having enough money to pay payroll and things like that. So it's like you said, major mindset shift, major game changer, and it allows you to take the pressure off. And I'm like, wow, I get to pay because I'm taking that out of my account that is built to pay myself. So it's really nice.
Really awesome. And of course, The One Thing's like my favorite book. So man, and I think that's why we get along so well. You know, maybe we enjoy the same books. All right, man, you got a pretty phenomenal story, and I want to hear about it. I want the listeners to hear about it. So give us your background. Go as far back as you feel like you need to, and bring us up to today. And what you're most passionate about, fired up about with Million Pound Mission.
Yeah. Well, I'm a podcaster just like Jared. I go by the name, the PhD, the previously heavy dude. Now, I'm a previously heavy dude because I used to weigh 327 pounds. So that was what I tipped the scales at my max. And my story and my business and my company are kind of intertwined, where I hit that rock bottom moment, like a lot of people do with a weight loss journey. But it's kind of different though. Like I wasn't 327 pounds because of like an emotional issue, or like, I wasn't your typical heavy person. I was competing in powerlifting. I was a semi-professional Highland Games athlete. And what happened is just food addiction got its hooks in me, and I couldn't stop eating. It was just, I was putting away 10,000, 12,000 calories every day really easily, like no problem. And and as a strength athlete, it doesn't get talked a lot about, like, I feel like it's not brought up enough to where that food addiction can get a hold of you, where you're starting to become unhealthy. So I started having blood pressure issues and anxiety and stress issues. And I just hit that rock bottom moment where I was like, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way that I feel. And I need to start making some changes. I had racked up a bunch of debt. I had $40,000 of credit card debt, relationship issues, like I said, anxiety, health issues. And I wasn't happy with the way my career was going. I was working with high school athletes, thinking I was going to be a world famous strength coach, which we all do when we go to get our kinesiology and exercise science degrees. We're like, I'm going to be a famous strength coach and work with athletes. And then we realized that they are a bunch of little jerks with egos. And, I would design, I'd walk into high school like Mr. Big Strong Guy. And then I would design these like amazing, like Russian block templates for increasing their dynamic strength and squats. And all the 15-year-old boys are over there in the corner doing biceps curls, and they're not doing anything. They didn't do anything I said. So that was just like, I was like, man, I'm done with this. I need to flip the switch and shift gears. So I had been, kind of going down this negative path for a few months. And I had some friends that kept on slipping me personal development material, and I'd never really bought into it. And there was a DVD sitting on my DVD player back in the age of DVDs, and it's called The Secret, and it's all about the law of attraction. And it was collecting dust. It had been sitting there. It's actually the second time somebody had lent it to me. I pretended to watch it the first time, and I gave it back, and then someone else gave it to me. I'm like, okay, I just got to watch this. So I watch it. And that night, I mean, like I said, that was my first taste of personal development. I'm like, what is this? Where has this been my whole life? It was like a light switch got turned on. All of a sudden, I could see opportunity instead of just negativity and depression and all the things that were going wrong. So I sat down that night. I mapped out a 5-year plan of what I wanted to create out of my life, how I wanted to feel, how I wanted to look, who I wanted to surround myself with, the business I wanted to create, the way I wanted to impact my community. And I sat down that night and I created a process that I now call my lifestyle rehabilitation statement. And I wrote it out. I wrote out what I wanted to accomplish. I set a 5-year timeline. You know, you and I are both kind of, I think, in sync on having a deadline, a timeline to achieve something. And so I set a 5-year mark, and I set goals with, you know, weight loss, relationships, business, all those things. I wrote it out as if it already happened. And that was one of my key rules was I have to write it in the present tense. It has to be all positive and as if it had already happened. So instead of saying, I want to lose 100 pounds by this date, it was, I've lost 100 pounds and I feel amazing and confident because I can shop anywhere. My energy is high and I feel comfortable interacting in any social setting. So that was the vibe that had, you know, a lot of positive energy. And I set another rule that I had to read it every morning and every night. And so the morning was to set the tone and align my focus with what I'm trying to achieve. So I was open and looking for opportunities that day. Then at night, I would read it again and think, did I move the needle in the right direction on any of these things? And if the answer was no, I had to do something before I would allow myself to go to sleep. So read one paragraph of a book, do 10 push-ups, drink some water or whatever. Just had to do something that would move the needle in the right direction every day, little small steps. And 5 years later, actually 5 years and 7 days later, I checked off the last thing. I opened up a gym, an 8,000 square foot facility. So in June of 2012, that was my 5-year mark. We had a little delay with the construction of the gym, permits and such. So it screwed me on my 5-year thing by 7 days, Jared. 7 days. I had lost over 100 pounds. I had gotten married, had a child, erased all my debt. And the last thing was that gym, the place of my own, the location. And I walked in at 6 a.m. I had 100 people waiting on me to learn from me and do a boot camp. And I told that story for the first time. I said, 5 years ago, here's where I was at. And I just did this every single day. And today, here we stand. This is the last thing that I checked off. And people are like in tears and freaking out, like, whoa, you just completely changed your life. So, it's something that I'm really, really proud of. We made a dramatic impact. And, in that 5-year time span, I helped my hometown lose over 35,000 pounds and built all this momentum with our business. 15 people lost over 100 pounds for my community here in Bloomington, Indiana. So I had a lot of things to be proud about. But it's all about that repetition. Like you and I both know that it's about putting in the work. I didn't sit there and think myself into all these goals. I had to align my focus and then put in the work and be consistent and show up every day. That's where people get it wrong. They think, I set my goals, I set my New Year's resolution, and then you file it away in the drawer and never think about it. Nothing ever happens. So it's the application that's the key. So that's kind of the long story of how I got from 327 pounds to where I am now. And now we're ramping things up with the 1 Million Pound Mission.
That's incredible, man. And that I had heard part of that story before, but I did not know about the secret part, the law of attraction. I think that's really cool. I think you can snag that on Netflix these days.
Yep.
And I do recommend everyone go watch it. I think it is a great introduction to the law of attraction. And so have you pursued that information any further, law of attraction or the study of any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and it's the process. One of the questions I get a lot is like, do you still do the reading the thing every day, all that?
Yeah.
And I do. I don't do it 5-year chunks anymore because it's almost too overwhelming. Because now I've realized how much you can do in 5 years. So I do 90-day chunks. I do the whole process every quarter. But just like you said, kind of going deeper into like the frequency, the vibrations attract, like it's really like it's going to be out there for some people. And I admit the first time I listened to it, I'm like, okay, this is some crazy stuff going on here. But you take what you want to take from it. And like I said, I don't believe I can sit here and like vibrate at a certain frequency and attract anything without any action. Like that's the key to me is the focus and the implementation. But it's super interesting.
No, I think I've been studying this stuff a lot. The kind of the journey that I've gone on just within my own podcast, obviously majorly into the strength and conditioning side of things and programming and all that. But the more people I interview, the more interested I got in the mental side of things and people talking about that. And kind of similar story, it started off, I mean, it's got to be almost at the start of the business. So like 5, 6, 7 years ago, something like that. A small introduction to things like the law of attraction and vibrating at certain frequencies. And dude, if you would have it's almost like you have to be fed that stuff in little chunks. Because if you just like all the things that I've read and looked at now, if you were to just give that to me like day one of starting a business, I'd have been like, get out of here with all that. But because you can go down some pretty deep rabbit holes and like you said, take what you want. But I do think that it's really powerful stuff because I'm a true believer in the ridiculous power of your brain. You call it your subconscious mind, whatever you want. I just think that you really can do just about anything. Another thing we talk about on this podcast all the time is the placebo effect. People actually curing themselves of diseases. They may have been tricked, but nevertheless, their mind did that, right?
Yeah.
Really incredible, man. I think that's cool. Really cool. So now you're operating in 90-day chunks. And what have you kind of noticed going from a 5-year, like long-term, I got this thing that I'm trying to hit to breaking it down like you're talking about now, 12 weeks, like focused goals. Do you feel more motivated, less motivated to work in smaller time frames, or how does that work for you?
Well, to me, kind of the game changer thing was I found another breakthrough moment. I found minimalism. So I feel like a trend with my clients, pretty much the average American, is we just keeps doing more and more. We dump more on our plate, accept more responsibility, more exciting things, and then more like routine job things, more friends, more date nights, more time with the kids. The kids have to do 12 sports, and it's just like pile on, pile on, pile on. And what we don't realize is things get deleted off the back edge, like our personal time to meditate, time to take care of our body, time to be with our family and really connect with the people that we need to be connecting with. So I found minimalism. I watched the minimalism documentary on Netflix. It's awesome, with Ryan Nicodemus and Joshua Fields Milburn. And I just started kind of applying some of those principles where I realized that the 5-year thing, it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming for me. And I just realized I need to simplify. And I had one of my coaches tell me that their motto is simplify so that you can multiply. And so I started just simplifying all my stuff and just focusing on, like, that's when I found the Gary Keller book, The One Thing. I'm like, okay, the one thing is the one thing. And I started setting goals aligned with that and really having that thermostat or that radar put up with, am I doing too much? We talked about this a little bit when you came on my show, that more versus enough, and finding that balance of, okay, what does enough money look like? What do enough workouts look like? And what am I sacrificing if I add more? And really using that filter as much as possible before I accept new responsibilities or opportunities. Because, people like you and I, we get psyched about stuff, and it's like, I want to do 12 podcast episodes a week, like I totally would,
Yeah.
I'm already like, I want to do another show and I'm doing all this other live casting stuff. And it's so fun. But then I'm like, okay, on the back end, like last night I did a live cast and I didn't get to put my son to bed. I like to read stories to my son and put him to bed. Didn't get to do that because I did a live cast. And that's when that filter starts to take effect and I have to start thinking about things. So that's kind of the key takeaway of why I've transitioned from the 5-year to the 90-day sprint, because I want to make sure I hit that reset button every 90 days and measure out that more versus enough equation and use that as a filter so I just don't get overwhelmed again, because I've definitely been there.
I feel like a lot of people struggle with sticking power, just their overall willpower to stick to something. You don't seem like someone who has that issue. If you can do something every day for 1,000 days, and you can accomplish these big 5-year goals, you obviously have what it takes in the sticking power, willpower department. Not to say that anything you've done was easy for you. I know there's probably challenges and everything. So what do you recommend to people who maybe just, maybe they get 2 weeks into it and then they fumble, or, they get 3 months into it and they mess up, or, they just feel like they keep screwing things up. They can't be, no mistakes for 1,000 days. What would you recommend they do?
That's a great question, Jared. I did an episode of my show a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about how to move from your goal to an action step. So that's where the in-between is where people screw it up, right? They're psyched about a goal, but they don't know how to actually create that repetitive habit or that action that you can apply every day and be consistent with it and develop a habit and turn that into a lifestyle. So the simple process is we set a goal. And then the next thing after setting, let's say you want to lose 50 pounds, or let's say you want to squat 400 pounds. All right. Let's use that with a strength training analogy, because I don't get to talk about that a lot, and I enjoy strength training. I'm always talking about weight loss. So let's say you want to squat 400 pounds, right? So that's the goal. Well, what's the why behind the goal? That's the next layer we have to unravel, is what's the why behind that goal? And it has to be bigger than all the why nots. That's the first filter, is if your goal of squatting 400 pounds, the why behind that, let's say that you want to compete as an athlete, you want to go to the CrossFit games, or you want to be able to compete as a power lifter, or you want to try to set a state record or whatever, and that's the why behind the goal. That has to be bigger than, well, I'm going to be really sore, and, I'm going to have to tighten up my nutrition, and I'm going to have to be consistent with my workouts, and I'm going to have to find time. So all those why nots, if those all hit you at once, if the why is big enough, then you're going to move through. Right? So we do the goal, we do the why, then you have to have a why now. So why are we not delaying this? Why are we not going to put this off and say, well, I'm going to do this in January, right? So what's the goal? What's the why behind the goal? What's the why now? Why are we taking action now? And then I like to add a little bit of a habit goal. So we have achievement goals and habit goals. Michael Hyatt talks about this in his book, Best Year Ever. And he talks about achievement goals and habit goals. Achievement goal is a finish line. Like, I have squatted 400 pounds. That's an achievement goal. The habit goal is the action that leads up, that we can do consistently, that builds up into that achievement goal. So what can we do? So we know that a habit goal would be clean nutrition every day. It would be mapping out our workouts in, 3-month cycles or whatever it is, making sure that we get our leg training in every week or twice a week, or do our dynamic day and do our heavy day or whatever. And so that would be the habit goal, the action step based goal. And then from that, we say, what's the one action step you can take in the next 24 hours to initiate everything? So maybe it's signing up for Jared's program online and set up your program, or maybe it's hire your personal trainer, or maybe it's get back in touch with your strength training buddies that used to, hit up the garage gym workouts with, or whatever. So what within the next 24 hours can you do to initiate everything? So we go from the goal to the why now, to the habit goal, and then the action step within 24 hours. So that's the process I try to take people through to get them from being motivated to actually get them in action.
I think that's awesome, man. And I love how you've broken it down, because that really is, everything you mentioned, that's how you achieve something.
Yeah.
And I think people often don't jump in with a big enough why. And is that something that you focus on a lot today? Your why?
Yeah. My why, and then just preaching the why to everybody else. Like you said, that's the reason that people, I've got another diagram that I do, I call the black hole of fitness doom. With weight loss, this is what you see happen to 99% of people. It's like a circle. They start a new program, they get initial results because it's a new stimulus. Right. Life happens, crash and burn, and around we go, right back to where we started. Every time it gets harder, because we lose hope, we lose willpower, we start to think, oh, this is just how I am. I'm just a fat person. It's my genetics, it's whatever. And we don't focus on what that life happens moment. That's the key. And people start program hopping and thinking, oh, I need to do CrossFit. Well, that didn't work. And then, oh, I need to do paleo, and that didn't work. Oh, I need to do Weight Watchers. That didn't work. I need to hire a personal trainer. That didn't work. But it doesn't matter the modality. It's let's solve the life happens moment. If you always overeat at night because you're stressed and you never meal prep, that's the big hole in the road that we keep on walking into. It doesn't matter if you ride a bike or drive a car or walk, you end up in the same hole in the road. and we have to fix the hole in the road, build a bridge over that to get to the goal on the other side. So that is, having a strong why, but on the other edge of that, understanding how this all works and not pointing the finger at the program, because I'm a huge believer in lots and lots and lots of things work. They work at different levels for different people, but I'm not I'm a CrossFit only guy and everyone must do CrossFit. I'm not a powerlifting or paleo. I try to learn every single diet regimen out there, and from keto to being vegan, right? And then, carnivore to vegan. Those are the spectrums, and I'm trying them all, because I feel like people need to apply the nutrition program or the fitness program that fits them, the right tool for the right job for right now. And that's not like a lifetime commitment of, people put this pressure on themselves, like, I've got to do CrossFit, and if this doesn't work, epic fail, nothing will ever work. I'm like, that's dumb. Like, that's just, but people think that way. I'm sure you see it too. Like, I've got to do garage gym athlete. If this program doesn't work, I am a failure and I suck. And obviously there's something wrong with me, but sometimes it's just, you need a slightly different program, a slight modification. And, but all, like you said, it starts with the why. That's the initiator, and you're not even going to get lift off the ground if that why isn't strong enough. Because the first time that life happens moment hits, you're screwed. Crash and burn. You have no shot at all. So you've got to really dive deep on that why and find that emotional root. I've got a client that when he gets up and talks about his goal of losing 70 pounds, and he talks about the first time his wife was able to put her arms all the way around him and hug him, he loses it. This guy's like 6'8". He stands up in my gym and starts talking about this. Like, it's the best testimonial ever, because
awesome.
he just loses it. And then everybody that's listening loses it. And, but that is what gets him out of bed. When the alarm goes off at 5 a.m. for a 5:30 a.m. boot camp class with Adam, that's going to get his butt up out of bed, and he's going to show up, because the why is bigger than all the why nots combined.
Yeah, and I think something you mentioned there, that loop, as and after you finally kind of see a breakthrough, I like to also tell people, like, having patience in the middle, because you mentioned seeing that new stimulus. It doesn't matter if you're chasing a weight loss goal or a heavier back squat. A new stimulus is going to make you stronger, because like in our training we have 3 different levels. We have a recruit level athlete, an established level athlete, and a competitor, and it's very, very, very hard to get to that competitor level. And so what happens is people get to that middle area from recruit, they get to established, and then they like you said, they sit there for a little while, and they're not seeing results as fast as they did when they were just starting out, and so they start to bounce around, and then that's when program hopping starts happening, and people think that it's a program or they need to try something new, but they just need to be patient. But then there's also a fine line, say in weight loss or diet, where, and this is kind of leading to my question, how long do you think someone should stick until they do change something up? Because for me, if they're following my programming and I know what they're doing, I might have to just express to them, like, look, you need to be patient. You might very well need to do this training for a year if you truly want to get to this ultimate level. So you might need to be patient for a year. But in nutrition, say they want to lose 70 pounds, and they the initial 25 was really fast, but then they're trying things in nutrition that's just not really clicking anymore. They feel like they kind of plateaued. Sometimes it's hard for me to be like, just stay the course if I don't know everything they're doing, versus, okay, well, maybe this diet isn't going to work for you. You need to try something else. So what do you do kind of in that middle area for people?
Yeah, so I want to point out a danger zone that I see a lot that you touched on a little bit there, and I'll bring it back around to my recommendation with this, and it's that there are a couple areas where we really screw ourselves up. One is we start comparing ourselves to other people. So you see, I'm sure in your group, you see people that are in the recruit or the established group, and they see people in the next level up, and they're like, well, why am I not there? They start comparing themselves to that instead of being like, damn, I've already moved up a level. This is awesome. Instead of celebrating that, they're comparing themselves that next level up. In the same sense, we always compare ourselves against that next goal that we're trying to achieve.
Right.
So one of my coaches, Dan Sullivan, he has this, we go from, we have where we started to where we want to be. And we always measure where we fall in trouble is we measure ourselves against where we want to be. And what we really need to do is turn around and measure ourselves against where we started. and measure the progress. Because the where we want to be, like if your goal is to be, so I've got an example of a woman that had a goal to lose 40 pounds and she hit the first 25 fast, just crushed it. But she wasn't celebrating it. She was in her head about not being at 40 yet. That was her mindset.
Yeah.
But I'm not at 40 yet. I'm not at 40 yet. You know, I haven't hit that 400-pound back squat yet. I'm not at that next level yet. That's how we start beating ourselves up. And I told her, you know, we do biweekly weigh-ins and do assessments and stuff. I said, all right, here's the deal. We're not going to talk about your 40-pound goal anymore. All we're going to do is when you come in and weigh in, we're going to celebrate and say, I've lost 26 pounds. And I have one of those 5-pound fat blob replicas. And I'm like, that's 5 of these, you know? And so we would like focus on that. And just by flipping that switch and taking that pressure off, you know, is when you beat yourself up, especially on a weight loss journey, you tend to cheat on your diet more. You tend to skip workouts because you're starting to get in that negativity mindset and it all adds up. Then stress hormones, all that stuff. We can dive deep on that. So we switched that. Then she hit the 40 in the next weigh-in. She dropped a ton of weight that first 2-week weigh-in, just switching the mindset. And then she hit the 50 within the next 3 weeks. And so it just went boom, boom. And so what we do with our goals is we hit that goal and then we say, okay, next goal. The horizon line moves out even farther. And then all of a sudden we're not there yet, right? Even though we just hit that first horizon line, instead of turning around going, damn, I've lost 40 pounds and celebrating that and sitting in it and being like, this is awesome, you know, and being proud of ourselves, we immediately switch to, I'm not there yet, to the next goal. So we have to be mindful of that. So that's another long Adam story of we have to be present. We have to be mindful of not doing that. But when we are in analysis mode, like you said, like seeing how long we need to sit on something and see if it's actually working. I love a 28-day cycle with nutrition. I'm telling people, you got to give me 28 days just to collect data and figure this out. And you have to be tight. And, you know, I let people incorporate I use a cheat bank, like basically like a bank account for cheat meals. And we stick to that. We track them. We book them. Like I have a workbook that I call my Transformation Battle Plan Workbook. It's a free tool. People can get it on the website. But you track for 28 days, you map out your nutrition, you map out your fitness, you map out your recovery, you book your cheat meals with your cheat bank. I've got daily and weekly little just touch points, and I make them collect all this data. I'm like, here's the deal. I don't care if you lose a pound. We're going to figure you out over the next 28 days. So if you lose 5 pounds, we're going to figure out the recipe that caused you to lose 5 pounds. If you gain 10 pounds, we've got the recipe of how to gain 10 pounds. You know, it's all this data, and we can't be changing all this stuff because then we don't know what works or what didn't work. So in that next 28-day cycle, we say, all right, we lost 5 pounds. We took 7 cheat meals. Let's trim that down to 5. That's the only variable we're going to switch, and let's see what happens the next 28-day cycle. And then they lose more weight, or maybe they don't. And we say, okay, let's switch from a paleo diet. Let's add 1 fasting day per week. I pull out 1 arrow out of the quiver every 28 days, and we shoot that instead of taking every arrow out and chucking it and going, well, I don't know, something might work.
Right.
You know, and that's what we do, though. That's what people do, whether it's weightlifting or weight loss. We program hop. We don't give anything a chance to work. We don't document. And then, you know, we don't analyze. We have no idea. We just go, oh, well, you know, I did, you know, Ed Cohen's deadlift program, and, you know, but then I did this Russian thing too. And then, you know, I added some West Side barbell dynamic squat stuff, and, you know, I just guess I have to do all of that. And we don't, instead of just adding 1 variable and really learning what happens. So that's kind of, you know, the 28-day cycle is the key for me. You have to, with nutrition especially, like you have to do that. You have to collect data and just focus on learning, not putting pressure on ourselves to lose every pound you've ever gained, not achieving every goal you've ever set for yourself, but just sit back and learn. And that's, you know, I just launched one of my boot camp groups. So we do them once a quarter. This is the first week, and I'm like, all I care about this week, guys, is let's just learn. Let's just start learning the program. Take some damn pressure off of yourself. Don't beat yourself up. That's not allowed. Let's just get in the flow. So, and people don't expect that with a boot camp too, especially me. Like I'm still a big guy. I'm like 220 pounds. I'm 6'3", and they expect like drill sergeant, you know, like he's going to scream at me if I eat a piece of chocolate. And I'm like, okay, you ate chocolate. Well, let's figure out why that happened. What was the stressor that initiated that? Let's document it and add that to our danger zone list that we prepare for in the next 28-day cycle. And they're like, whoa, he didn't yell at me. We just talked about it. Weird. So that's the routine that I usually put people through on figuring out what's working and how long we just stick to it.
It's like truly becoming your own scientist, right?
Yeah.
Only changing one variable. My wife and I used to get in arguments about this all the time with diet. So she's big into diet. I always joke that or big into diet nutrition. Like her diet and her level of inability to be strict makes me look like I'm just like basically not even doing anything. She's really good with that stuff. But when she has a goal that she's trying to achieve, and nutrition is that, and it could be a number of different things. Like we just had our third child, and she's breastfeeding, and then the baby was having really bad reflux, and then the doctor said it could possibly be diet related. It could be dairy, it could be this or whatever, and so she just did the shotgun approach, and she's always like that because she's so good at being able to like. She could eliminate everything except for like, I don't know. I don't know like where, as long as she was getting enough calories and surviving, like she's good at being strict. But I'm like, if you do that, we're not going to know what the variable was. And it's very hard to be patient and to do that. And you mentioned having to kind of, come back and have some gratitude to what you have achieved. I know I struggle with that even to this day. And even though so it kicked my ass for a long time, especially in business. I'd achieve things and then immediately not even care. I'd be like, nope, you're not at this level. You're not, here. You're not there. You haven't achieved this. And that was good for me for a couple of years, I think, because it kept me going. It kept me hungry. It kept me moving and, ambitious. But then eventually I just kind of hit a wall where I was like, damn, like I can't do this for the rest of my life, never be happy with anything I've achieved, even when you're like checking off all these goals that you set for yourself and you're constantly not happy. So I'd like to know, as someone who's achieved a lot, in business and fitness and, health overall, how do you focus on staying thankful? Or, do you have some sort of gratitude practice? What do you do to try and not beat yourself up? Because I know that there's no way you'd be doing all that you're doing if you weren't incredibly driven, ambitious dude, who really wanted to crush things and help people. So how do you not get stuck on that hamster wheel?
I try to constantly remind myself, like I'm kind of known as the positivity guy, but I try to also think back to the times that were tougher and like when I was heavy or when business wasn't as good or a stressful time, and just kind of, whenever I'm in that, I kind of make a mental bookmark, and then when I'm out of it, I refer back. It's almost like split personality. And I think like, all right, we've come a long way. I'm proud of you, but I also, when I'm in it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to remember this moment, and I'm going to come back to it mentally when I'm out of it and just remind myself that to enjoy that that stressor is gone or that debt is gone or whatever, and just sit in the moment. Like one of my big goals that I had that I set over 10 years ago was I wanted to be mortgage free in my 30s. And I'm getting ready to turn 38, and we paid off our mortgage a couple months ago. That's awesome. And I'm like, I'm super proud of that. And I've just been kind of sitting on that. And every day I journal every day. I do a gratitude journal. I do 3 things in the morning that I'm grateful for, 3 things at night. And I just think about that. I'm like, I'm proud of that. Like not many 30-year-olds are out there rocking no mortgage. And it's not because I'm a millionaire. It's because I'm a minimalist. I live off of 20% of what I bring in, right. And I save the rest. And I have 79 total items of clothing. Socks count as 2. I mean, that's what I'm rocking. And I know some of my clients have like 79 like sports bras. All right. So it's I just tried to remind myself of, I focus on achieving the next thing that's the goal that I'm trying to achieve that's gonna be a difference maker. But I also remind myself and reflect back and think, all right, we've come a long way because this is how it used to be, and here's where I'm at now, and it's time to be grateful for that. And it just kind of always being mindful of that really kind of keeps me centered, and I do it on a daily basis.
That's awesome, man. And I want to talk about that minimalism a little bit. My wife and I have been called minimalist before. We didn't really consider ourselves on a movement or anything, but I think that we are. I don't have any strict rules behind it. It's just funny because we don't care about anything that we own. Maybe it's because we don't own super nice things. I don't know. But when we moved to North Carolina, we got rid of like basically everything because we realized our house had been kind of like packed full of stuff, and we got down like really bare bones. Like there was not a lot left. And then moving again, we're like, let's just maybe just get rid of all of it. like everything. And I know some people, there's no way in the world they could ever think of just being like, you know what, poof, let's get rid of it all. We'll buy a few more, like a couple of things. We'll have some items, and it just blows some people's minds. That's when it was more recently, and this more upcoming move that we have, that I was like, yeah, we're not normal, you know. So tell me about why you're a minimalist and what it's helped you do.
Well, I'll kick it off with the mantra that really resonated with me. When I heard this, it was in a book. I can't remember which author it was, but they said that minimalism, their definition of minimalism was you maximize the things that add the most value and you minimize the things that get in the way of those things. So whatever you, in that way, everybody, that can be different. Like if you're somebody that gets a lot of value out of having a bunch of cars and that's like your thing and it's your passion, then you can have a bunch of cars. It's not like you have to have less than a certain amount of things. You know, it's just the mantra of what adds the most value to your life. Focus on that, maximize that, and minimize anything that gets in the way of that. And so that's where, again, that's another filter that I use. And things like having a bunch of clothes. Like I own a gym, you know, I'm a podcaster. Like I'm not even wearing pants right now, Jared. Like it's I'm, you know, from the waist down completely naked. And no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Minimalist. No, that's nudist. That's nudist. That's a different thing. But you know, having a whole bunch of clothes and I don't need a bunch of suits and, you know, fancy shoes or anything. And what my one thing, you know, that we can go back to that is to retire in my 40s. And so that was so that's driving me to make my decisions of what I am doing, what I'm spending money on. And so my filter with minimalism is, am I doing something that's helping me hit that one thing goal? Am I setting myself up? Paying off our mortgage was a part of that. So I can add that money that I was paying to my mortgage towards retirement. I'm just socking it away. And that's something that's super important to me is, you know, achieving that one thing goal. You get getting attacked there. It's all right. But that's something that, again, using those filters like that and using that minimalist mindset of like, I used to always buy a lot of books, and now I go to the library and I rent books because it's free. It's amazing. And I don't have to have a big pile of books. And, you know, so the reason I was able to pay off my mortgage, this is kind of a crazy story that nobody ever even like thinks about doing. So the house we live in now, we bought 10 plus years ago. We moved from this house and lived out in the country, but, you know, did the big house pool thing. And then I realized about a year ago, I'm like, I'm going to have to pay this off until I'm like 70. Like, this is crazy. And we were renting the house out that we moved from. And there was getting the mortgage paid off. And I had set that goal being mortgage free. I'm like, that's never going to happen. So I talked to my wife. I'm like, let's move back to the other house because the mortgage is almost paid off. And I said, you can retire in your 40s. I can retire in my 40s. This makes sense. Let's do it. So we did it. And a lot of people would take that as like an ego hit because it's a smaller house. It's no pool, no fancy stuff. But you saw the Instagram video today. I've got a podcast, a little studio in my basement. My squat rack is right there. I can knock out pull-ups. Like as soon as we're done, I'm gonna knock out a few pull-ups before I go pick up my kids. I got everything that I need, and it fits my lifestyle, and it fits the goals, and it feels good. And that pressure of that, you know, minimalism has helped me get rid of a lot of the societal pressures that are just put on to us by our culture of, oh, you need to keep moving up the ranks and you have to have more stuff. And you have to have a more expensive car. You know, I drive a $7,000 Nissan Leaf. It's an all electric car, but it looks like it's like the official car of nerds is what it is. And like, it is not a cool car. When I tell people I got an electric car that think Tesla, I'm like, no. It looks like a frog. It looks like a girl frog is what it looks like. I'm driving around. I'm this big ass guy and I'm driving my nerd car around. But you know, I'm like, I don't have to pay for gas. It's awesome. But anyway, I make those decisions based off of my one thing. And the one thing is what drives everything. Because I want to be a full-time dad when my kids are in high school and things like that. I want to be at every sport. I want to be able to help them. You know, I want to be able to hit the home gym with them and work out and be able to impact them. So I set impact goals, not necessarily monetary goals and being fancy and famous goals. And I think that's one of the reasons why people connect to my podcast a lot, because I talk about this and it's just kind of different. You know, I won't pose in front of a bunch of Lamborghinis and be like, I'm rocking it, you know, or whatever. Like, do my program and be like me. It's just, it's not how I roll.
That's awesome, man. All right, man, your take on minimalism is really, really impressive, to be honest. I think you and I have so much in common. To be honest, this probably will not be the last time you are on the Better Humanology podcast. I feel like I could have an hour-long conversation with you just about, fitness and your pre-weight loss days. I could have an hour-long conversation with you about entrepreneurship, because I think you and I are very much in line. I think I could have an hour-long conversation with you about finances, mindset, law of attraction. Like, there's just so many things that you and I have really just touched on from your perspective. I think is really incredible. But I want to get to the quick fire questions of the show. Everyone listening, make sure that you go check out Adam's podcast. It really is incredible. I was on it and had a great time, like I mentioned at the beginning. But we're going to move to the quick fire question of the show, man. So what's the hardest workout you've ever done?
All right. This goes back to the powerlifting days. It was like back when I was really stupid, like really, really dumb. But we just like lifted weights. So I came up in a gym called the Iron Pit Gym, Bloomington, Indiana. If you're ever in Bloomington, Indiana, you have to hit up the Iron Pit Gym. And it's like a hardcore, like powerlifting, good gym. All right. And my coach, Big Doug, he's a national Highland Games competitor, world champion Highland Games athlete, Masters world champion in powerlifting. He's like, all right, we're going to do like a squat circuit superset, and we're going to do every type of squat we can think back to back to back. And I was like, sounds awesome. This sounds great. So we're doing like front squat, back squat, overhead squat, safety squat, chain squat, band squat. And there were like 6 circuits set up. And what we had gotten commitments from like 15 guys that were going to do this. So the plan was we would rest while we're waiting in line for the next guy to squat. Well, 4 of us showed up, Jared. So there was no rest at all. And we'd announced the whole gym like this was going to happen. So we had to do it. So we were screwed. So we were doing like high reps and then go to the next thing, high reps, go to the next thing. And it was brutal. We went for like 30 minutes of just nonstop squatting, and it sucked so bad. Like one of the guys bowed out about 20 minutes into it. And there's a garage door, and it was opened by like 3 inches, and he's literally putting his mouth like right there by the bottom of the garage, just trying to suck clean air from the outside. And I was holding the trash can for my coach because he was front squatting and throwing up over the bar into the trash can.
Oh my God!
Like it was terrible. I remember one guy made it out of the gym without puking, but on the way home he had to throw up, and he pulled into a car wash and walked through the car wash throwing up. But it sucked, man. It was dumb and sucky. But awesome. That's when you're young, you do stuff like that and live to tell war stories when you're old.
Yeah, so just in case you're on the Better Humanology podcast, you can have an awesome answer to that question.
Yeah.
That's why everyone out there should go do something challenging.
Yes.
I mean, in your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
I think that, like we've touched on, is having some sort of a daily habit goal that, whether it's like the no cheat challenge, you have to think about what your biggest danger zone is, the thing that holds you back, and what can you do to chip away at that daily. So if you really suck at being consistent, think about something that will make you show up and be consistent with. So it can be super simple. Like I'm going to drink 32 ounces of water and take a picture of it and put it on Facebook every day. So there has to be some sort of account. That's the key.
Yeah.
And so somebody has to know you're doing it. So you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm taking a picture of my water bottle, my empty water bottle every day for the next 28 days. And I'm going to chip away. And that's just building your willpower. It's building up your consistency muscles. And I feel like that's where we need to start to hone in on building that mental toughness.
I could not agree more. Now, if you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
The Thigh Master.
Nice.
No, actually shake weight. No, just kidding.
Shake weight's much better.
Dude, somebody gave me a shake weight for a gag gift once.
That's what everyone says.
Oh. Have you ever seen the shake weight? Have you seen the DVD that comes with it? Have you ever seen this?
I've seen the commercial. It's got to be similar.
Okay, so it comes with a DVD, all right? And all I'm saying is normally when like they get like fitness models, like some like jacked dude, this guy was probably like 35% body fat, but still like shaved and oiled up. So he looked like a greasy hot dog is what he looked like. And he's doing the shake weight thing. And I mean, it's awesome. It is the best. No, I'm a barbell guy. Like I don't use any machines for anything at all. I've got a squat rack and a barbell and weights. So if I've got that, I'm ready to rock, brother.
That's awesome. All right, man. The question of the show: what is the best advice you have for becoming a better human? This is 100% open-ended.
I feel like we touched on a little bit with we have to take pressure off of ourselves. When we're trying to transform our lifestyle, when we're trying to transform our body, we can't put the pressure on ourselves for it to happen like yesterday. We have to go through the process. We have to be willing to show up consistently with our habits and the things we're trying to implement, and not get into that mindset of I'm not there yet, like we talked about. I mean, that's the key thing is just take some pressure off yourself, focus on learning, because all we have is time. There's no true deadline. Like I don't have, unless you're like competing in a bodybuilding show or something like that, there's no deadline to get healthy. So let's just take our time. Let's take the pressure off ourselves and learn how to get healthy.
I love it, man. All right. Now you got a lot going on. You do a lot of cool stuff online. So what's the best place for people to learn more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, millionpoundmission.com. That's the mothership. That's the website. That's where you can connect to my podcast, Million Pound Mission Podcast. I've got 2 areas on social that I really like to interact with people. One is Instagram. You see my Instagram, I get kind of crazy with the stories. It's fun. So Million Pound Mission on Instagram. I also have a Facebook group that gets really rowdy. I've got about 2,000 people in there, and it's very interactive. It's not one of those like crickets Facebook groups. So it's set up for people that really struggle with being consistent with their nutrition. I call it the Defeat the Cheat group. So if you go to defeatthecheat.com, it'll reroute you right into that. It's a free Facebook group, and you can check that out. So, but I love to interact with people, and that's everybody knows I don't make any money being a podcaster. So I say my compensation is the conversation. I love for people to reach out and really let me know how I can help them. That's my fuel. That's what I love to do.
I love it, Adam. All right, man. Well, I really appreciate your time and for being on the Better Humanology podcast. Till next time.
Thanks, man. Now, I got a challenge. I have one last challenge.
Okay,
go for it. Time for one challenge? Yeah. So what I want you guys to do as an audience is, I know that you hear people ask for this all the time, but if you got anything out of this episode, I would love for you to share it out. Share it out to one person. And let me tell you a quick story why. I did an interview on a podcast a couple of months ago, and I had somebody that messaged me on Facebook that had listened to it. They weren't a subscriber to that podcast, Jared. Somebody had shared it on Facebook, and they heard it. This individual is planning on killing themselves that day. All right.
Wow.
Somebody shared the episode. As I bring the energy and really rile it up, and something connected. They heard something and they decided not to do it. They Facebook messaged me. They said, "Listen, a big long Facebook message. I've never, I don't think we're ever ready to hear information like that. I mean, it's just like, what do you say to that person?" But I just did my best to interact with them and feed them a bunch of positive energy. And now they're working their way out of it. They're even thinking about starting their own podcast, talking about their journey and sharing with other people. So you never know who you're going to impact by just sharing it out. So if you got anything out of this, just share it out, and and let's see what happens.
Could not agree more, man. That's awesome. All right, man. Till next time. Peace.
Awesome.